Today, what I'd like to talk about is the Penfield Map, which is what you're seeing here. Wilder Penfield actually did some, I don't know if I want to call them experiments, but activated parts of people's brains with electricity in order to see which parts of the body reacted. So this would actually have to mean that he had people who were alive who he had their skull open and was activating parts of their brain. If you look at the whole thing broadly, what you'll notice is that the face and the hand take up a huge amount of cortical area. The larger the object, that is the hand and the face, the more cortical area of the brain this takes up. And then what that really means is that there are more nerves in that area. These parts of the body are more sensitive than other areas. So for example, the lips, although it shows the mouth as being open, the lips are actually very sensitive. If something was to crawl across your face, that you would notice right away, whereas something crawled across, I don't know, some other part of your body when you were focused on something else, you may or may not realize it. And you think, no, I would recognize if something was crawling across me, but let me ask you this. Have you ever cut yourself or scratched yourself and you didn't realize it? Or maybe even cut yourself so bad that you were bleeding, but didn't realize it until you saw a little bit of blood and then realized you were hurt. So that's what we're really talking about. At the very bottom, where I don't know what that's supposed to look like, but at the very bottom below the chin of the face is the tongue. Then you have the lips, the face, the nose, and the eyes. Notice that the ears are actually very small. Then the hand, and you may think, well, hands aren't very sensitive. Well, if you are going to look, not to look, but if you're going to feel if something is hot, which side of your hand do you use? You probably won't or shouldn't use the bottom of your hand, that is the palm of your hand. If you are going to see if something is hot, you use the back of your hand. So is the hand sensitive? Yes, it is. But the more you work with your hands, the less sensitive the palm and the quote bottom side of your hand, it becomes less sensitive, whereas the back of your hand should remain very sensitive. Now we go up, you notice that the arm, the trunk, and really the legs are very small in cortical area. Now below where it says toes, there's another body part that's actually either been erased or whited out, and that part is actually your genitals that are in the cortical area just inside the cleft in the brain, or the fissure in the brain, where the two hemispheres meet. And you think, well, so what? You know, big deal that it's that the brain is mapped out like this. But when we talk about phantom limb, is that how is it that a part of your body can be removed, or even you can be born without that body part, but you will still feel it? So the question is, if you're born without a body part, say like you're born without a leg, or you're born without arms, both the left and the right side, would you still feel those particular appendages? And the answer is yes. What happens is, if you have a part of your body that's removed, that the cortical area that is closest to it will take over that part of the brain. So that is, if let's say the hand, the whole hand was removed, would you feel it in your wrist? And the answer is no, but it goes to the next largest cortical area. So the hand actually ends up in the face, which that sounds kind of weird. But if you look at V.S. Ramachandran, phantoms in the brain. Women who have gross mastectomy, so notice where it says trunk, that's where the breast would be. If they have the whole breast removed, sometimes they feel the nipple on the elbow. Now you think, well, it should be the shoulder, and I can't explain why that isn't, but it goes to the elbow. Someone who has a foot fetish, that is, they get sexually aroused by having their toes manipulated, because the toes are very close. I was going to say feet, but it's the toes are very close to the cortical area having to do with the genitals. What they think is that those nerve endings are actually so close to those neurons, I should say, not nerve endings, but neurons are so close together in that part of the brain that there's a misinterpretation of the signals. And when the toes are touched, it moves over, that stimulation kind of moves over into the genital area of the Penfield map. If you have any questions, please send them to me in email or in Google Classroom. I just have two quick experiments that I want to talk about. Fritsch and Hitzig and Kluver and Busey. These should be in your notes or from, I think it's maybe this PowerPoint. Fritsch and Hitzig were two researchers that realized that, and they were doing experiments with dogs, that the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body, and the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. That is, the brain is cross-wired to the body, and I'm not sure that they really know why that is, but Fritsch and Hitzig, doing experiments with dogs, discovered that particular thing. Kluver and Busey, this has to do with the amygdala. They were doing experiments with baboons, as I recall, and that they lesioned the amygdala. Now, what this means, lesion is like a scar, but in this particular case, what it really means is they burned it so that it was no longer functional. They used a probe to lesion the amygdala of baboons. And what happened then is these baboons that had been very aggressive, and I just mean that's their nature. They're quite aggressive when you're close to them, that they became very docile. That is, you could come right up to them and you could put your hand on them. I mean, by which I mean petting, not hitting. And that they really didn't do anything. Now, they could still eat, they could still move around. Everything else about them was normal. But they did not have a very strong, well, they didn't have any fear response or anger response. So usually what I ask students is, what would happen if they put these baboons back into the wild? And the idea is they would probably be killed. Fear and anger in the wild are survival instincts. If you're afraid, you're going to run away, which means if you're able to outrun the predator that's chasing you, you're likely to live and procreate another day. Anger might mean standing your ground against another group of baboons.